upon further review.
Alright, so let's talk about the New York Giants going into Washington to face the Redskins, and that's the Thursday night game. You can catch that September 25th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and that's on the NFL Network. And in this game, we got the Giants coming off a big win against the Texans as they picked up their first win of the season after having lost in Week 1 on the road to Detroit and then losing at home to Arizona. They win that game at home against the Houston Texans, and that was an impressive win because the Texans have a good defense, and they were able to run. Jennings was able to run for 176 yards. Cruz finally showed up as he'd been struggling in the first 2 weeks, and Victor Cruz had 107 yards receiving. Manning didn't have the biggest of days. He only threw for 234 yards, but he did enough to get the win. So the Giants looking really good in Week 3, and they're going to try to build upon that success on Thursday night in Washington. The Redskins are coming off of a tough loss to the Eagles, and that was in Philadelphia. They lost just by a field goal in a game that saw Kirk Cousins throw for 427 passing yards. They both, Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson, caught for over 100 yards in that game. Morris, though, he kind of struggled. It was his lowest rushing game of the year, as he had rushed for 91 against Houston in Houston in Week 1. Then Morris ran for 85 against Jacksonville and Washington. And then last week the Eagles held him to just 77. So the Redskins are going to need to get more production out of Alfred Morris against the Giants. Of course, they've got a couple other backs as well. It's not all the running duties fall upon him, even though he does get the majority of their carries. They also have Roy Helu as well as Silas Red, who can both, they get a few carries here and there, and they actually have better averages per carry. Of course, part of that is due to the light load that they have as opposed to the heavy load that Alfred Morris, as he's already got 59 carries so far this season, as he averages just slightly under 20 carries per game. Of course, they are a more pass-oriented team. They pass the ball about 75% of the time. And Kirk Cousins, so he's been looking really impressive as he's thrown 5 touchdowns after having come in relief of RG3 when RG3 got injured. And he's starting to really, seems to be getting the feet under him as he's really came to play last week. I mean, he had a huge game, and that's the type of game they're going to need to have against the Giants. I actually think that the Redskins can beat the Giants. It's in Washington. And the Redskins have shown so far that they actually do have some defense, believe it or not. Because they have got an impressive sack total. They had 10 sacks in that game there when they were facing up against Jacksonville. They were just in the backfield, sacking them left and right. They need to, continue to bring that kind of pressure. They got to bring that pressure against Eli. If they can get up in Eli's face, that's going to make it a long day for the Giants. Of course, they've got to shut down the running game, but I'm questioning, is Rashad Jennings going to be able to really, bounce back 4 days after running for 176 yards? Is he going to be able to put up big numbers 4 days later against Washington? That remains to be seen. I don't think so, personally. Hey, maybe he will. We'll see. But if you see in Week 1, he only put up 46 yards. In Week 2, he only put up 64. And then there in Week 3, he more than doubled that. So, he came out really big against the Texans. So we'll see what he can do against the Redskins in Week 4 on Thursday night. Of course, they're going to have to also have Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon put up some big numbers as well, which they did in Week 3 against the Texans. If they can continue to do that, they can put up the points that they did. If they can score like that against New York, they should win. The big question mark for Washington is if they will be able to, stop the Giants from scoring. The Giants didn't necessarily look like a team that was that tough to stop scoring until they ran up 30 points on the Texans. Of course, in that game, they did get a lot of defense. The was a well-rounded team effort for the Giants, and they're going to have to bring that same kind of effort to this game if they want to beat their rivals, the Washington Redskins. This is a big game for the NFC East. You got to win these games. The Redskins, if they want to go anywhere this season, they've got to win this game against the Giants at home. You can't afford to lose home games to division rivals. So they're going to definitely, and these teams, when they get to playing, they play their best football against each other. They said the Giants, their defense, they had the 3 interceptions, against Texas, and they've got to do that same thing. They got to show up against Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins throws the ball a lot. He's at least in what we've seen so far, he seems to be a better passer than Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick doesn't get as many pass attempts, although he's a real smart quarterback. But Kirk Cousins has been picking apart defenses and racking up some big numbers. They said that was really impressive what he did against the Texans. He's got to protect the ball. He's pretty good at protecting the ball. So far, he's only thrown the 1 interception. So if he can protect the ball, it'll be all right. But the secondary of New York is very talented. Antrell Roll and Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, they both had a pick last week, as well as Akamara. So that secondary is going to be a big factor. If they can shut down Garcon and Jackson, that'll go a long way towards the Giants being competitive in this game. Of course, they've got to protect the ball as well, because Eli is known to throw interceptions. He's already thrown 4 interceptions this year. Of course, he was able to get above his interception ratio as he now has 5 passing touchdowns. But going into last week, he actually had more interceptions than touchdowns. But we'll see which Eli shows up in Washington. It's going to be the touchdown throwing Eli, or is it going to be the interception throwing Eli, or is it going to be some combination of the two? And on prime time, the pressure will be on. But I just think coming off the short week, I got to give the advantage to the Redskins, especially they're at home, and they also seem to just be a team that's a little bit deeper. I just think with the running backs that they have, Dale Young also, they can kind of, they don't have to rely just on Morris, even though they seem to rely heavily on him. They've got other guys to give it to, whereas the Giants a little bit more limited. Although Andre Williams has been getting some touches to split with Jennings, but Jennings by far, he has 68 touches compared to just 19 for Williams. Like I said, he ran so much, against the Texans, and that's a tough run, run against that Houston Texans defense. He's got to be banged up, and he's going to struggle to run the ball against Washington. I could be wrong. We'll see on Thursday night. But I just think that the Redskins are going to be able to run the ball better. I also think they just have the depth at receiver as well. And I think that their defense is going to cause some turnovers. They should intercept Eli, and that's going to be the difference. Will be those turnovers. If Eli can play a mistake-free game, the Giants win. But I think he does throw an interception, maybe 2 interceptions, and that will be the difference. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Very interested to hear what you have to say. Just leave it right there in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this show, and if you did enjoy it, make sure to hit the like button. Also, make sure to subscribe, as we are bringing you the Wedge each and every single week, along with many bonus upon further reviews, as we have an upon further review for every single game of the weekend, and we upload those between now and when the games start on Sunday, as well as on Monday morning we have the upon further review for the Monday night game. We also bring you recaps from every game, as well as recaps from games in college football as well. So keep an eye out for those, and once again, thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a great weekend and enjoy all the football.